Ladies and gentlemen, picture this. Two of the world's most powerful nations, often painted as rivals, suddenly shaking hands in the heart of Africa. Not for war, not for competition, but for something far greater, a vision of progress. Imagine India and China, two economic giants of the 21st century, joining forces to help Ethiopia build a modern railway system that could completely change the course of African development. Train. This is not just another infrastructure project. This is about politics, power, and the rebirth of Africa's destiny. For years, India and China have been seen as competitors, each trying to outdo the other in global influence. But Ethiopia, landlocked, ambitious, and determined, has managed to do something extraordinary. Bring these two giants to the same table, working on the same tracks. Welcome back to Ezicho Africa, where we bring you Africa's biggest stories, partnerships, and opportunities shaping the continent's rise. Today's story is a game changer. We re-diving into how India and China are joining hands to build Ethiopia's modern railway system, why this partnership is historic, and what it means not only for Ethiopia, but for the entire African continent. Stay tuned until the end of this video, because what you'll discover is that this isn't just about steel and locomotives. This is about Africa standing at the center of global cooperation, shaping its own destiny while the world watches. Ethiopia has always been a land of resilience. With a population of over 120 million, it is the second most populous country in Africa. But unlike Nigeria, Egypt, or South Africa, Ethiopia has one unique challenge. It is landlocked. Without a coastline, Ethiopia has no direct access to global trade routes. Instead, it depends heavily on the tiny neighboring nation of Djibouti for over 90% of its imports and exports. Every bag of Ethiopia's world-famous coffee, every ton of sesame seeds, and every container of manufactured goods must pass through the congested Djibouti port. That journey, long, slow, and expensive, has been one of Ethiopia's greatest obstacles to economic transformation. And yet, Ethiopia has a dream to rise as East Africa's industrial hub, a dream to go beyond being just a coffee exporter and to become a center of manufacturing, technology, and logistics. But such a dream requires one essential ingredient: infrastructure. And at the center of that infrastructure is the railway. Railways are not new to Ethiopia. In fact, Ethiopia was one of the first African nations to build a railway during the early 20th century, connecting Addis Ababa to Djibouti. But over the decades, that colonial-era line fell into disrepair, leaving Ethiopia reliant once again on trucks and roads. But the modern era brought new possibilities. By the 2010s, Ethiopia had already started working with China to build the Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway, Africa's first fully electrified cross-border railway. Opened in 2016, this 750-kilometer track cut the transport time from days to just 12 hours. It was revolutionary. But for Ethiopia, one railway line was not enough. The vision was bigger: a national railway grid connecting every region of the country, north to south, east to west. And beyond that, a network that would connect Ethiopia to Sudan, Kenya, South Sudan, and even all the way to the ports of Lamu and Mombasa. This was not just about trains. It was about breaking free from isolation, about becoming a gateway for Africa's future trade, about turning Ethiopia into the beating heart of East Africa's economy. But Ethiopia faced a challenge. Such a project required billions of dollars, cutting-edge technology, and a reliable partnership. And this is where two Asian giants, India and China, came into the picture, two nations often seen as rivals, but now working together in Ethiopia to turn a dream into reality. If you've followed Africa's infrastructure development, you'll know one name dominates the conversation: China. Over the past 2 decades, China has become the largest builder of infrastructure on the continent. Highways in Kenya, power plants in Angola, ports in Nigeria, airports in Zambia. China is everywhere. This expansion is tied to the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, launched in 2013 by President Xi Jinping. Through the BRI, China finances and builds infrastructure that connects Africa, Asia, and Europe into one vast trade network. And Ethiopia, with its central position in East Africa, became one of the most important countries in that strategy. The Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway is perhaps China's most famous project in Ethiopia. Built at a cost of $4 billion, financed largely by Chinese loans, and constructed by Chinese companies, the railway became a symbol of Ethiopia's modernization. It slashed travel times, boosted trade efficiency, and demonstrated what China could deliver. But Chinese involvement in Africa hasn't been without criticism. Western governments and analysts often accuse China of practicing debt trap diplomacy, offering loans that poorer countries struggle to repay, giving China leverage over their economies. Critics also point out that Chinese companies often import their own workers, reducing local employment opportunities. And yet, for Ethiopia, the partnership has been largely positive. Without China, Ethiopia would likely still be dreaming about modern railways instead of running them. The key now lies in how Ethiopia manages debt, ensures skills transfer, and maximizes the benefits of this infrastructure. But here's the twist. While China has long been Ethiopia's main partner, Ethiopia also wanted to diversify its friendships. It didn't want to rely on just one global power. And so, another partner stepped into the picture: India. India's relationship with Africa is deep, historical, and growing stronger every year. For centuries, Indian traders crossed the Indian Ocean, building links with East Africa. Communities of Indians settled in places like Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, leaving behind cultural and economic footprints. But in modern times, India's engagement with Africa has taken a new form: investment and partnerships. Unlike China, which focused heavily on mega infrastructure projects, India has often targeted softer sectors like education, healthcare, IT, and agriculture. Indian universities train thousands of African students. Indian pharmaceutical companies provide affordable medicine across the continent. Indian IT companies have set up offices from Lagos to Nairobi. In Ethiopia, India has been a silent but important player. Indian companies run commercial farms, textile factories, and IT training centers. India has provided lines of credit for power generation, sugar industries, and rural electrification. But now, India wants to step into the world of infrastructure, railways being the crown jewel. Why? Because railways are not just about transport. They are about influence, connectivity, and prestige. For India, working on Ethiopia's railway system is a way of showing Africa and the world that it too can deliver mega projects, not just China. India's advantage lies in its human-centered approach. While China brings massive financing and manpower, India focuses on technology transfer, training, and capacity building. Ethiopia doesn't just get a railway. It gets trained engineers, digital systems, and local ownership. And so, Ethiopia saw a unique opportunity. Why not bring the strengths of both giants together? Let China provide heavy financing and construction expertise, while India offers digital innovation, training, and sustainable models. The result? A collaboration that could truly transform Ethiopia's railway dream into reality. Now we arrive at the heart of the story: the India-China collaboration in Ethiopia. This is extraordinary because, let's be honest, India and China are not known for working together. They are neighbors with border disputes, geopolitical rivalries, and competition for influence across Asia and Africa. Yet in Ethiopia, the two have decided to cooperate. Why? Because Ethiopia needs both of them. The scale of the project is too large for one country to handle alone. And because Ethiopia's government played the role of a smart negotiator, convincing both giants that cooperation, not competition, would bring better results. In this collaboration, China brings its traditional strengths: financing, construction equipment, and large-scale project management. Its state-owned companies are already experienced in African conditions and have built similar projects across the continent. India, on the other hand, contributes in areas where China has been weaker: digital ticketing systems, railway signaling, safety protocols, and most importantly, training Ethiopian engineers to run the railway themselves. Together, they form a complementary partnership. China lays the steel. India builds the brains. Ethiopia provides the vision. The collaboration also sends a symbolic message. If India and China, two rivals with so many differences, can cooperate in Africa, it means that Africa is no longer just a playing field. It is a global stage where partnerships are redefined. Of course, challenges remain. Coordinating between Chinese and Indian teams is not easy. Political mistrust between New Delhi and Beijing can surface, and Ethiopia must carefully balance the two so that neither dominates too much. But so far, the collaboration has been surprisingly smooth. For Ethiopians, the project is a source of pride. Many see it as a turning point, proof that their country is important enough to bring together two world powers. For workers on the ground, it means jobs, training, and hope. This collaboration is not just about India and China, it is about Ethiopia's future. The benefits are enormous. First, jobs. Tens of thousands of Ethiopians are employed in construction, engineering, and operations. This is not just temporary work, it's skills development that will last for decades. Second, trade. With faster, cheaper transport, Ethiopia can export more coffee, sesame, flowers, and manufactured goods. Farmers in rural areas will be able to send their products to urban markets more efficiently. Factories will have easier access to ports. Third, regional integration. Ethiopia's new railway network will eventually connect with Kenya, Sudan, and South Sudan, creating a powerful East African trade corridor. This means more regional cooperation and stronger economies. Fourth, prestige. Ethiopia will be seen as a leader in Africa's infrastructure revolution. It will inspire other countries to aim higher and demand more from global partnerships. Most importantly, this railway gives Ethiopia leverage. No longer fully dependent on roads or one port, Ethiopia gains more control over its economy and destiny. The world is watching closely. Western powers like the United States and Europe are uneasy. For decades, Africa was seen as their sphere of influence. Now, India and China are stepping in with big projects that win African trust. The African Union has welcomed the Ethiopia project, calling it a model of South-South cooperation. Neighboring countries are excited, hoping to link their own networks to Ethiopia's railway. Critics still raise concerns: debt, environmental impact, and whether Ethiopia can maintain such large infrastructure. But the overwhelming mood in Africa is positive. Finally, the continent is getting the kind of investment it deserves. This project is more than Ethiopia. It is about Africa's future. For decades, African railways were neglected, left to rot after colonial powers abandoned them. Now, a new era is beginning. If Ethiopia's model succeeds, other African countries will copy it. Imagine a day when you can board a train in Addis Ababa and travel to Nairobi, Kampala, Khartoum, or even Cairo. Imagine Africa connected not by colonial powers, but by partnerships chosen by Africans themselves. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, will benefit enormously. Railways will make it easier for African countries to trade with each other, not just with the outside world. And this could mark the true beginning of Africa's economic independence, ladies and gentlemen. The story of India and China joining forces in Ethiopia is bigger than just trains and tracks. It is a story of Africa's future. A story of how global powers are now looking to Africa not as a place to exploit, but as a place to partner with. For Ethiopia, this railway is a game changer. It means faster trade, more jobs, more pride, and more opportunity. For India and China, it shows that cooperation can sometimes achieve more than rivalry. And for the world, it is proof that Africa is no longer on the sidelines. It is at the center of global change. This project won't solve all problems overnight. There will be challenges, loans to repay, systems to manage, politics to balance. But one thing is certain: Ethiopia is on the move. The whistle of its modern trains is not just the sound of locomotives. It is the sound of Africa's rise. This is Eazicho Africa, and we will keep bringing you the stories that matter for Africa's future. Until next time, remember this: Africa is not waiting for the world. Africa is building its own destiny. Train Globe showing Europe Africa.